Welcome back to the 8-Man Breakdowns podcast. This is where we discuss all phases of the game of football, including philosophy, play concepts, questions, and more. Joining me today is Coach Brett Westrup. Coach Westrup is the head coach at South Central High School in Coldwater, Kansas. Coach Westrup is heading into his 14th year of coaching overall, all coming at the 8-man level. 12 years as a junior high head coach, and is currently heading into his second year as a high school head coach at South Central next season. In 2022, under Coach Westrup, South Central doubled their win total from 2021, finishing with a 4-4 regular season record, while also clinching a spot in the playoffs. Well, Coach, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Coach Mitch.
So I always start with a little bit of background information. So, Coach, just start by telling us a little about yourself and your high school playing days and how you got into coaching.
Yeah, so I graduated from South Central High School in 2004. For a lot of people that don't know, South Central is a consolidated school down here, kind of southeast of Dodge City, a consolidated school between Coldwater and Protection. It actually consolidated when I was in 7th grade. And so the first year of South Central I was the first 8th grade class of South Central. And, I played in junior high football, played 4 years of high school. I actually didn't go to college. I went to college my freshman year, but not to play football. And then I missed it so much. I got to talking to a good buddy of mine that summer. We were working together, and I talked to him about how much I missed playing football. And he played for a guy by the name of Coach Andy Lambert out of Trinity International University up at Deerfield, Chicago. And Andy actually transferred down to Sterling. And he said, you need to go up there and play for Andy. He's a good dude. So I actually visited Sterling in the summer of 2005. And then I went there, played football, and graduated in 2009 with a degree in sports management and business.
Was there anyone specific who pushed you on your path into coaching?
So looking back, so when I was in college, I actually had zero desire to coach. I didn't go to college thinking, I'm going to go into education. I'm going to coach. I shouldn't say I didn't have a desire, but it's not really nothing that ever crossed my mind. And so when I went to college, I knew I was probably going to move back home and be in agriculture. So I just got something that interests me. So I got a degree in sports management and business. Then when I moved home, they actually needed a junior high football coach and a high school football coach. And so I talked to the high school football coach at the time. His name was Matt Smith, and now he went to Atwood, and then now he's the principal or superintendent at Frigo now. But I talked to him, and I said, so would you rather have a junior high football coach that will hopefully teach the X's and O's and fundamentals where you get kids in high school to where you don't have to teach them anything? Or would you rather have somebody at the high school level that's going to, back you up and help you out there? And he said, well, I'll leave it up to you, but I think it would be better to have somebody at the junior high level that would teach fundamentals. So that's what I did. I actually went to the junior high, and I coached there for 14 years. And so then some of the things that I used from coaches would be Coach Chuck and Andy Lambert, both that I had at college, and then Jess Langbart. And then I also had 2 college teammates that I played with that have actually been a huge help to me. Then that's Matt Fowler, who was at Spearville and won those state championships there and just dominated. Now he's at Oswego. And then a real good friend of mine named Brent Schneider, and he's at Sterling High School right now. And those guys have helped me out tremendously. So, I coached, like I said, 12 years at the junior high level. And then the opportunity came open to go up to the high school. And so I called Matt Fowler, I called Matt Smith, and I called Brent Schneider. And I asked all 3 of those guys because I'm a Rule 10 coach. And I knew it's going to take a lot of extra time because I'm not a teacher and I'm not at the school all day. And I just wanted to know what kind of time commitment it was going to take to be a good, successful high school coach where I wasn't going to cheat my team out of things that they needed to be successful at. And I always told everybody that, and Mitch, I knew you were a junior high football coach too. I told everybody that the best sport out there that you ever coach is junior high football. And that's because you only have 7 games. The season's only 9 weeks long. No film, no weights, and you don't have to deal with any attitudes. So, yeah. But after after my brother graduated high school in 2012, I was coaching at the time at junior high, and I actually decided to be a high school football official when he graduated. I thought, you know what, I'm not going to go to all the football games anymore, and I love the game of football so much. I wanted to find some way to be involved in it, and so I thought, well, I'll just get into refing, and I'd ref for 12 years. 5 of those were a white hat, and so then 2 years ago when the school decided to go a different direction with the staff, they wanted to know if it interested me, and I was actually headed down to Hooker, Oklahoma, that night to do a playoff football game when I found out that they had an opening at the high school, and I was sitting there refing football that night down there in Hooker, and I thought, there is no way I'm giving this up. But I talked to Matt Fowler, Matt Smith, and Brent Snyder, and after having really good conversations with them, I decided to take off the stripes and go to the high school sidelines as a coach. But with that being said, I'm definitely going back to wearing the stripes one of these days. I mean, hopefully it's not going to be soon, but if for anybody out there, I know there's a huge shortage of officials. If you ever get burnt out on coaching, the next best thing to being able to play football is being able to be involved in the game, and reffing for me, that was amazing. I loved it.
Coach Fowler, I've talked to him a few times now. He student taught at Stafford and coached here for a
Yeah,
year,
he did.
which would have been right after you guys got done playing in college. So
Yep.
that's kind of interesting.
Matt Fowler is a football genius. Um, I, he was my college, not only class or a teammate, but he was my RA, my dorm RA, and so we shared a wall, and so he was in our room a lot. And I would consider Matt Fowler to be one of my very good friends.
So then, like you're saying, though, you've been a high school official for so long, and then now switching back to being on the sidelines. Just talk a little bit how that goes into your approach and demeanor with officials throughout the game.
Yeah, so most of those guys that because the officiating community is a pretty tight knit community. Everybody really kind of knows everybody in the western side, and so I knew every crew that officiated our games except for two of them, and that would have been the playoff game at Dighton, and that would actually have been the game we played you guys up there at Stafford. And so when those guys come to do the pregame meeting with the coaches, they all know me, and they just kind of chuckle and laugh, and they said, "Well, we need any help, we might ask you." I have had guys that ask me, look at me like, "Did I make that penalty right?" But I let them call the game as I see it. But that crew that did you and I's game up there at Stafford, they actually did their homework, and they knew that I was a high school official for 12 years, because when they came up to introduce themselves to me, they said, "Hi, this is such and such," and I said, "My name is Brett Westrup," and they said, "Yeah, when this is your first year because you've been official for 12 years." And I said, "Yeah, I have." And so, but I, as an official, I always told the kids at the coin toss, we're human just like you guys are human, and I guarantee you guys are going to make bad plays, and there's going to be times that we can't see everything. We might miss a call, and if you think we missed something, have either your captain come to me, and we will watch for it, because we want a cleaner game than you guys do. And I know they're going to miss things. That doesn't keep me from voicing my opinion every now and then. But I know what it's like to be that guy out there, to have everybody yelling at you. And so we have a pretty good relationship with all those guys. So we try to keep her cool, but I mean, we try to maintain that good relationship with them.
Yeah, I'm the same way. This is my first year as an athletic director, and so I had to hire and meet with all the officials, prior to every home event that we hosted officials. I mean, for the first time, I'm on the other side. I hate it when the fans get on them, because again, like you said, they're human, they make mistakes too, and so that is interesting though that and probably majority of the officials you have coaching your game. That's kind of an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, we did have a couple situations one time, where they misadministered the penalty, and I'd be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hey, come back over here," and I'd tell them, be like, it's actually 10 yards. This is a penalty," and they'd come together, and yep, you're right, and I let them make their call, and then if they do something that I don't think is correct, then I'll correct them there. And I did lose my cool one time, I'll admit, to an official, because I mean, I didn't just lose it on him, but a holding penalty is a it's a 10-yard penalty, and it's a spot foul the penalty unless the penalty happens behind the line of scrimmage. And so we had a holding penalty on a pass, and so they administered it from the spot of the foul. So they ended up penalizing us 16 yards for a holding, and I tried to tell them that that was not right, but I didn't win. So I mean, it is what it is. So just like I said, they're human, just like my kids are human. I'm human. I'm gonna make bad calls, play calls, and my kids are gonna drop balls and miss tackles, and they can't see everything. So without the football officials, we can't play the game of football.
Actually, this year I had at least 3 crews that emailed me and said, "Hey, here's our huddle. Could you please forward the film? Because like, we wanna study ourselves, we wanna learn from our mistakes as well." And I was like, "Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's awesome." So I sent them the films, and so but yeah, that's cool to see also.
Yeah, there was multiple times as an official because we're down here on this Oklahoma Kansas state line, and we would go into Oklahoma quite a bit. And I actually, before I decided to coach, I had a full 2023 and 2022 football schedule. I mean, I had to give up because Oklahoma football season is longer. They have week 0, and then they play 10-game regular season. I
Mhm.
had I had to give up 13 games in the 2022 season. I had to give up 12 games in the 2023 season. But I would ask teams, if there was a situation that there might have been multiple penalties, or if there's a situation that we were a little unsure of if we handled it correctly, I would ask them. I said, "Hey, can we have that game film so we can study ourselves because we want to be just as good as you guys want to be good."
So I know football is a copycat game, and we all steal a little from each other, like we were talking about earlier, but what would you say is something that you guys do a little differently in your program?
It's tough to say, because I'm just a first year coach as a head coach at high school, and we were so young last year. We just had one senior. We only had one starter that came back from the 2021 season. But even with that game experience that we got last year with our young guys in the 2022 season, we're still going to be really, really young because we're going to be bringing in probably 28 boys for the 2023 season. And of those 28, 16 or 17 of those are probably going to be underclassmen. So we're looking at having 11. I know I'm going to have probably 11 freshmen. And, our whole coaching staff is also Rule 10 coaches. So that's a little different than everybody else because we don't have somebody at the school building at all times, so we're just having to get information from the principal or whatever happened during the day, and hopefully kids keep their nose clean. And so I also run summer weights, and this summer we're actually going to change things up and move towards the training of the feed the cats. And back to that Jess Langbart that I talked to you, he was a strength and conditioning coordinator when I was at Sterling College, and he went a couple different places. Then he spent about 6 or 7 years at Jacksonville Jaguars, and now he's at the Air Force Academy. And so he's really geared me towards that, and so that's something we're really looking forward to changing to.
Definitely for Division 2, if you guys have almost 30 kids, that's definitely rare. Having all Rule 10 coaches, that's definitely not as common either, like you were saying. I think there's more in Division 2 than there is Division 1 just because, Division 2, the schools are so small, and even 6 man, it's hard to attract that many young teachers or even young people to become coaches. But yeah, and then the Feed the Cats, I switched to that last year. I love it. I really do. Would you talk a little more about that? How you're going to structure summer weights? Do you know yet exactly what you're doing?
Yeah, so Jess actually built my summer weights program, and I've actually worked with Brent Schneider, my good buddy there at Sterling, and him also. And we're being a Rule 10 coach. We're going to lift 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then we're going to have one session of a 5-on-5 kind of a install competition every Wednesday the month of June. And so we're going to go away from that, and I've always been kind of against that condition at the end because, you really get nothing out of it. So we're going to move more transition to working on the fast twitch muscles and just helps us be quicker, and it helps us be more explosive.
Yeah, no doubt, coach. I love the Feed the Cat system, and honestly, I don't think I'll ever go away from it. So similar to you, coach, I'm heading into year 2, and I know I'm going to be making a lot of adjustments after the first year. So any specific adjustments that you're going to be making into year 2 going in this year?
Well, because previous coaches you've had on the chat and coaches we saw at the 8-man coach clinic. We're also going to implement what we call Coach Ayers talked about the team accountability system. Last year, our overall theme for the team was the process is more important than the product, because we were so young. I was new, to focus more on getting better each and every day, not worrying about Fridays, not worrying about trying to go to playoffs, not worrying about state championships. Let's get better each and every day. So we looked at the process was more important than the product. But then this year we're going to change our theme to set the standard. With that, I tell my kids everybody's got goals in life, and it's great to have goals. But if you don't have standards to meet those goals are just empty promises to yourself. And if you say, "Well, I want to bench 250," well, you're not going to bench 250 unless you show up every day at weights and work your butt off. And I want to start running a 5.640. Well, you're not going to get a 5.640 unless you put in the work to get it. And so we're going to set the standard to reach those goals, and that's going to be our team theme.
Absolutely agree. I mean, you gotta work up to it. Like you're saying there, don't worry about the overall outcome. I mean, we'll get there eventually, but we got to do all this first.
Since we're gonna have 11 freshmen, those 11 freshmen have had an enormous amount of success at the junior high level. I mean, just all in. They're so competitive, want to work so hard, and those kids are going to do nothing but push my high school, my sophomores, juniors, and seniors. As much as we learned last year and bringing back literally everybody but one kid, they're going to have to work their butts off because we're going to have some freshmen that are going to come in and push some playing time with those other kids, and it's gonna push everybody. So by setting that standard of how you want to be individually, how you want to be as a team, is going to be real important.
So here, let's talk a little bit of offense and defense then. Just kind of describe to us what your base offense is.
Honestly, we're going to change things up this year with the athletes we have, and we're going to go more towards a spread offense. Like I said, being an official for 12 years, I saw a ton of different teams that had success in many different forms of football. And we're going to move towards a spread run offense, like we saw a whole bunch in Oklahoma. We saw a lot of that, especially at Laverne High School. And so, when we first went to Oklahoma and watched, in Kansas, they spread it out to throw it. And in Oklahoma, a lot of the teams, if they would spread it out, they would spread it to run it. And that's what we're going to move towards. We're going to move towards a spread run offense, get our kids in space, and we're also going to pass, but it's going to be more of a spread run offense.
I like the spread run offense. I like just the spread period. Because if you're going to be in an I formation, the defense is going to load the box. They're going to know what's coming, just like the old days when you only spread to pass. Whereas if you're running a spread effectively and you can, kind of be efficient at both running and passing, then defense has to be on their toes every play. And maybe that's what you're talking about, the success in Oklahoma. I haven't seen enough Oklahoma teams, but
And I found out the hard way, when I coached junior high for 12 years, how many junior high teams throw it? I mean, you might have a team that's going to throw it. I mean, throwing it 5 or 6 or 7 times in a junior high game is a lot. You're going to throw it maybe 3 or 4 times. You think you might get a mismatch, or you like get desperate. You're at the end of the game, you're down by 6 or something. You got to score real quick, or maybe you're just trying to do something new because you're killing the other team so bad. But in junior high, we would have so much success. We just run double tight I formation, and that's where I thought my job was at the junior high level, is to teach the fundamentals of football. So we were just going the double tight I formation. We just had crazy good success in it in the 12 years I was there, and so we did that to start out the season. And I found out real fast, real quick, that if you're going to run double tight I formation, people are just going to stack the box, and it's going to be real hard to run. So we're going to spread it out some.
if you have the guys to do it and it's working, it's successful, then I agree. I think why not? You can definitely stick with it. But one thing I started to see when I first got into coaching was the deeper the teams go, usually they're pretty efficient at both. So here, then let's talk defense in a little bit. So what about defensively? How would you describe it to somebody who hasn't seen your team or defense play? What do you guys do?
Yeah, once again, we're going to change things up defensively based on our athletes. In college, I played DB, and we ran a 3-4 defense, and I love the 3-4 defense. But obviously, we're not playing 11 man here, so we've kind of been kicking around an idea of trying to implement that 3-4 defense some way somehow into 8 man. And Then we watched Hill City play Meade last year in the playoffs, and we saw them run that 2-4 defense, and we kind of, me and my defensive coordinator Rylan Wolfolk, we kind of fell in love with that. And then we got to hear them talk about the 2-4 defense there at the coaching clinic. So we're going to run something similar to that 2-4 defense that Hill City runs, but it's not actually going to be exactly the same. We're actually going to tweak it a little bit based on the athletes we've got, and it's all going to be new to us. So we're going to have a lot of new young players. We're going to have a lot of kinks to work out, but that's what we're going to move towards this summer.
Hill City's definitely become known for their 2-4 defense, but I like how you're going to mold it into your own style. Obviously we all take from others, but yeah, you just got to put your own spin on it and do what's best for your team. So here, then now let's talk a little bit about last year. So just tell us about how the year went for you and your transition from junior high to high school. What did you learn the most about your team? Talk about last year.
This past season was a huge learning experience for everybody, both coaches and players. And we're kind of doing a new system with the kids and new expectations. We finished the season 4-4, lost the first round to Dighton, which is a very solid Dighton team. Even though we had a lot of success at the junior high level, found out real fast there's a huge difference in coaching junior high versus high school. This year we started the season with 19 injuries and a couple kids quitting. We finished with 14. So practice was real tough. As you know, coach, if you can't go 8-on-8, there was times, I take pride in playing scout team quarterback. I take pride in, completing that 40-yard pass over the DBs or getting outside the defensive ends. But there were some times in practice where we'd have to be like back to the when you were a little kid playing baseball and you say ghost on second. We'd say, all right, there's supposed to be a guy split out there, but even though he's not there, we might have our 8 guys on defense. But I know there was a couple times at practice when we'd only have 12 guys, and so it was really tough.
Yeah, that is tough. I know we only had 16 this year. We were down to 12 one time, and so we had 4 coaches and we were all on scout teams. Everybody at them small D2 schools knows that feeling. It's not the funnest, but actually, yeah, so you're gonna have like 28-ish. We'll have, I think, 23, 24-ish out next year, which is gonna be really nice for us. So kind of building off of last year, what do you look forward to most going into this next season?
Even though we were so young this past year, we started 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores. It was great for our young kids to learn and grow with a ton of game experience. When I took over the head coaching job, we actually had the opportunity. The AD asked me because we were small enough. He said, "Do you want to go to 6-man and you want to play 8-man?" I said, "No, we're going to stay at 8-man because if there's ever, we're got some big classes coming up, and so there's opportunity that we're probably going to be Division 1 actually in 2024." And I told him, I said, if we have to go 6-man, we can have good success, but that's just 2 years of football fundamentals that I just lost. So we got a ton of game experience with those young kids. We're actually going to bring back 7 starters. We only had 1 senior, and so we'll bring back 7 starters. We're going to have a load of freshmen with either 11 or 12 incoming freshmen, and I'm actually expecting probably 2 of those freshmen to get a major varsity playing time or even start. The biggest factor I believe that's going to be for us is the competition that they're going to bring to push those returning starters to go hard each and every play and actually have to work this year. Where last year, we had such no numbers. Sometimes they didn't have to work hard to even play. They just because we were so low numbers. So that's what I'm looking forward to most is just having kids where we can actually compete.
Yeah, if you can have a depth chart of 1, 2, and a third string, then you at least create competition. I want to be out there. What do I got to do to push this kid to get better? Absolutely. So
And one of the things I stole that we're going to implement this year, I stole it from that Madison coach that could talk to the coaching clinic is we're going to, he talked about how he had that gold, I think he had black, white, and green team or something like that.
yep,
And so we're going to implement that into our practice, and we're going to have a black team, a white team, and a green team. And so, if we have 28, we may have 10 because we're going to have a couple kids probably play one way. But the majority of our kids are going to be a 2 platoon kind of guys. And so we'll probably have 10 what we call the black shirts, going back to the old Nebraska days. So we'll have probably 10 black shirts and then 8 white and 8 green. And we're just going to use that, like Madison talked, as a way to push those kids and we're going to reevaluate those kids each day after practice. And if we have somebody that's kind of screwing around, not giving us 100% like they need to, we'll just bump them down from the black to the white and then move somebody up from the white up to the black and use that as a motivational leverage as a tool to motivate kids to work harder because as you know, kids are different these days and there's some kids that you can just chew their butt all day long and they're going to get better every day, and then there's some kids that you can just literally just try to correct and they'll just fold. And we're going to use that as a motivational tool. Like, you didn't have very good practice, so we're going to bump you down. If you want to get back up to the black shirts, show us that you want to get back up to black shirts off the white shirts. And it's going to build that competition to where they're going to push each other. I'm not going to have to push them. They're going to push each other.
Yep, absolutely. And like you're saying, kids are different these days, and honestly, I think it's parents are different these days, and so it rubs off on the
Amen.
but every kid's different. You gotta build that relationship with them and somehow get them to buy into it. But it sounds like you got plenty of freshmen coming up that are competitive and ready to get their shot because, like you said, they've had success in junior high. But then, and speaking of that, though, did you guys have any JV games last year?
We did not. Actually, we had 3 JV games scheduled. We were supposed to play Meade, Sublette, and Kiowa County. And in the Meade game, we had 2 kids get hurt, and then another kid quit after that game. So then we were automatically down to 16 kids. And so then the backup quarterback actually moved up to starting quarterback. And so we didn't actually end up getting to play any JV games last year, which, sucked. But I wasn't willing to go out there and put my quarterback in a JV game to get him hurt. So we didn't have any JV games.
I agree with that. We didn't have any either. We only had 16, and we actually did 2 fifth-quarter games. So our first and second game of the year against Fairfield and Skyline, after the game was over, we just had like a running clock of 6 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever it was, and it was kind of jamboree style, 4 or 5 plays and then swap, 4 or 5 plays and swap. And even then, I had 2 starters playing on offense and defense, because if I wouldn't have had them out there, then I would have had a freshman playing out of position and 2 freshmen playing out. So I was like, that's not going to get them any better playing a different position. So, anyways, yeah, this year I'm hoping we can have enough kids to play some. So, I mean, I'm assuming you guys will have some JV games planned this year then?
Yes, so far I know of 3 JV games that we have scheduled, and hopefully we can get another 1 or 2 scheduled. So that's going to be awesome because with 28 kids, there's going to be some kids that are just all they're going to get scout team time at practice, and in order to get those kids better, we need to get them in some JV games. So hopefully we can get some of those scheduled. And like you were saying, playing that 5th quarter after the regular season, after the regular game, that's how we did it when I was at junior high. Is we'd play a 5th quarter afterwards, and maybe that's something we need to look to at the high school level. I didn't know people were doing it like that.
Yeah, well, I only did it last year because I reached out to both of those schools and I knew we weren't going to have the numbers to do it. But yeah, so I'm hoping we can do some JV games too.
I think 4 JV games is a solid JV year.
That is, yeah, I
Um,
agree.
five is good. If you can get 4, that's a good solid JV year.
Yep, I would agree. So, final question, Coach. Just share what's your biggest piece of advice to upcoming football coaches?
I'm not gonna act like I know what I'm talking about to those good old veterans that have been there forever. But if I could give one piece of advice to younger guys coming in, we have 14 rules, and the very first, not team rules, we have 14 goals, I guess you could say. This year's going to be set the standard, but we have 4 goals for every season, and they don't change. They're the same every season, and they're even the same ones I had in junior high level. The very first one is, we're here to get an education. Your education can take you a lot farther than this football field is. Number 2, we're here to develop men, better young men. I always tell my team, if we go undefeated and win a state title, and we got a bunch of thugs that aren't respectable in the community, that season means nothing to me. If we can't have the community behind us, undefeated state championship season means nothing. So developing a better young men, get better as a football player every day. Just like I talked about earlier, the process is more important than the product. And then lastly, just go out and win. I think also, if I could give one piece of advice is, kids, there's a lot of kids out there that need a good role model in their life. And a lot of them look up to the coach. So I would suggest, be there for that kid, but don't be their best friend. And I've seen a lot of coaches that, they want to be not only their coach, but they want to be their buddy. And then when you become their buddy, that's when you lose respect. But just care for the kids and just be there for them.
Well said, yeah, and I agree there. Be there for the kid. There's definitely a fine line there. I mean, you can be a friendly coach, but you don't want to be their friend, like you said. But
And
definitely,
that's one of the reasons why I got rid of social media. One, I got tired of looking at what people were eating, and two, I got tired of looking at people's political stuff, and three, I got tired of looking at them in the mirror at their workouts. But I also got tired of kids trying to friend request me on Snapchat, friend request me on Facebook. I've got a standard that I won't accept any friend request to anybody that's from high school or younger. And so I just ended up getting so many friend requests that I just got rid of them because I don't want to see what they're doing on social media, because I think then that just opens the door to become more of a buddy instead of a mentor.
that's one thing that kids need to learn these days, period, is got to be careful with everything you put out there. And like you said, everybody puts everything out there of what they're eating, when they're going to lift and all that. Yeah. Well, coach, thanks again for taking the time to do this with me. I love doing this. I really do. And I'm glad you finally decided to, or finally we got it to work to join me. So, but thanks a lot, coach.
Hey, you bet. Thanks for having me.
So I've recently started a Twitter page with the same name, 8-Man Breakdowns. I'm going to use it to share when new videos and other new content is coming out. That way everyone can stay up to date. So go check it out. And that's going to do it for this episode of the 8-Man Breakdowns podcast. If you ever have a question for me, feel free to comment down below on this video or visit my bio to shoot me an email. If you've learned anything or enjoy any of these videos, please click subscribe and check out some of my other videos right here. And as always, guys, thanks for tuning in.